Well, hey everybody, Mike Griffith here, just kind of getting some camera work adjusted. Friday night, Mike, indoors tonight. Gotta go indoors. I kind of hate to do that. I'd rather be on the porch, but it is just, I'll say it, it's too hot. It's too hot. Don't start calling me a Yankee. Don't say I can't take the heat. Listen, I've been in the South a long time. When I first moved to the South in 1993 to cover Auburn, I had a car that did not have air conditioning. For 2 years, I had this little Toyota Corolla. The wife had the kids then, so she had the big minivan. So I was in the old Toyota Corolla with no air conditioning, covering Auburn for 2 years. And so I got used to the southern heat. I embraced it, right? Like I said, I wanted to work in the South my whole life. I couldn't wait to get down to Alabama and cover Auburn and work my way down to the Mobile Register and then cover Alabama. I mean, that was exciting. I mean, there I was in 1994, 1995, covering Alabama football and SEC football and thinking, man, this is it. I've arrived. Who knew that there was more? Who knew that it could get better? And yet it continues to get better. The trip to Tennessee in 1998 to cover the Vols, and boom, they win a national championship my first year on the beat. And then, the bosses come to me and say, hey, Tennessee's covered, they got this new basketball coach named Bruce Pearl. We think you're really going to like him. And I'm going, boy, I didn't come here to cover basketball. But then Bruce Pearl, amazing, does 6 straight NCAA tournaments and fun to cover. And it's led to Michigan State and now Georgia. And so here I am with you on Friday Night Mike. And I hope everybody is having a great night. My intent is to try to be positive. There's some realities in the world we're going to talk about that are negative right now. And I don't think they need to be as negative as they are construed. Now, look, I'm a newspaper guy, an old newspaper guy. I understand news to me. And, we have a responsibility in the media to inform and certainly to, keep things in perspective. But listen, folks, this thing's gotten political. I'm just going to tell you the truth. There are people expressing political views and stories right now that I don't think are appropriate. Listen, that's not what we're about at Dog Nation. I can speak for us, and I'm proud of the organization that I work for, and I don't think you see a whole lot of politics in AJC.com. I think they do a tremendous job with their balance and their coverage, and to me, that's one of the best news organizations in the country, and so I can speak here, and I don't want to speak down at other organizations, but I do feel like I'm working at a place that really balances things out and delivers the news. Because that's the right thing to do. And I look on Twitter now and man, I feel bad for the fans because, remember it used to be you'd pick up Twitter and you might have an opinion or you might want to vent. You might want to have some fun. Boy, I don't know about you, but when I get done reading Twitter, my blood pressure's up and I have a hard time sleeping sometimes. And it's just because there's a tone of negativity and we've got to do better than that. We've got to do better than that. Individually, we've got to start to play it forward. And maybe if we play it forward and we're positive, then maybe there'll be a trickle effect. That's what I like to think. I do a lot of radio shows. I do Athens on Monday mornings at 8 a.m. That's my start of the week. Sometimes it seems like it comes a little early, to be honest with you. So they get the cranky version of Mike. I can get a little ornery on the Athens show. But by 2:30, I go on Birmingham's 3-man front, and I'm usually feeling pretty chipper. Monday's a real get-it-done day, so that's usually a pretty strong interview. Tuesday morning, I go on Bill King in Nashville at about 9:20 Eastern time, and Bill and I go back 8 years, and so that's almost like a fireside chat kind of show. But then every now and then I'll get calls. I had a couple Sirius XM shows last week with Greg McElroy and Peter Burns and Chris Doring, and and I kind of put it out there. I said it then, and I'll say it now. When it comes to COVID-19, let's be straight for a minute, and we'll get to all the fun Georgia stuff here in a little bit, but there's going to be COVID-19 whether there's football season or not. I hate to break that to anybody. And the idea that college football has to bat 1,000 for their football to be played, to me, is ridiculous. It's a standard that's not realistic. It's never been realistic. In fact, you can go back through the years and it seems like every year there's a player with an illness or cancer or heat stroke or, this year it just so happens COVID-19 is in the mix and they're testing so thoroughly for it. Folks, people are safer on campus than they are if they're not playing football. That's my argument. The kids, if you want to know where the 18 to 24-year-olds are that are playing football, if we want to just evaluate what's best for them, they're safer playing college football than they would be off campus not playing college football. That's a fact. So let's be clear on that. And the people that are there to legislate sports, I'd like to see them legislate sports. Have you ever heard of the God complex? They're not there to be political. They're not there to rule the world and tell people how to live their life. They're there to legislate sports. And I'm going to say it. Stick to sports. Let sports be sports. We'll have rules in our society. We'll have our local health organizations and our local government tell us what we can and cannot do. If these kids can legally play football, then my gosh, they ought to be playing football. And if they can be on campus in classrooms, then they can sure be on a football field because they signed up for an opportunity also. They signed up for an opportunity. And I don't know what gives anyone the idea that they have the power to take that opportunity away from these young people. That really upsets me. That upsets me. And I've preached this before, and I'll throw it out there one more time because I'm really tired of talking about it. But I feel like this point of view needs to be out there so that you folks watching, so that people can combat these people that just rain negativity and, oh my gosh, you can't do it if anybody's going to catch COVID-19. Listen, people are going to catch COVID-19. So just stop. Just stop telling us that you can't have college football if some of these players are going to get COVID-19 because they're going to get COVID-19 anyway. So it's flawed logic. But thank goodness when I was 18 that my parents and my educators and my relatives didn't try and talk me out of the military. They could have said, you know what, Mike, if you decide to go airborne and you jump out of that airplane, there's a risk factor with that. And if you can't promise us that you're going to be 1,000% safe, we're not going to let you join. Well, of course I wasn't going to be 1,000% safe. Of course there's risks involved in every decision that we make. But at 18, 19, and 20, I wanted that GI Bill. I needed that. That was my ticket to college, was going in the military. And airborne was what made it worthwhile for me, was what made me feel special about getting up every day. And it seems silly now, but wearing that maroon beret and that 82nd Airborne patch, that meant a lot to me. That made my heart beat. And that's what I wanted when I was that age. That was my adventure. And nobody could talk me out of it. So why are we trying to talk these kids out that have worked their whole lives for these college educations and these football experiences? Why are we trying to talk them out of that? Why are people telling them it's too dangerous? The numbers tell you that there's risk, but it's not high risk. It's up to them to decide if the juice is worth the squeeze. Not some legislator, not some commissioner, not some professor. Society. America, freedom, opportunity. So that's where I'm coming from. So when I read those tweets, if you read those tweets and you get frustrated and you get tired of people telling you how to live and getting preached to, just know that you're not alone. And also know that not all the media is part of the cancel culture and not all the media wants to cancel football season. That's not true. It's my passion. I love college football. Even though I know there'll be a risk for me if I cover college football, I'll have to travel. I'll be in press boxes. I'll probably be exposed more than I would if I continue to sit holed up in my house like I have all summer. But that's what makes my heart beat. That's how I live. And I'll be the one to decide if I want to take that measured risk. And those football players will be the ones to decide. Now, some news tonight, common sense to me, but the SEC's come out and said that if a kid doesn't want to play, his scholarship's still going to be there. His scholarship's still going to be there. So if you're a player, you don't have to play. If you feel endangered, if you feel like it's not worth the risk, you don't have to play. You'll have a whole year of eligibility saved. So that's kind of my little opening. I don't want to call it a rant because I like to think I was pretty balanced. But now's when I'd ask you if you could share this story. I'm going to share this on my Facebook page. You're watching it on the Dog Nation Facebook page. I'm going to share it on my personal Facebook page. I like for my friends to have an opportunity. None of us are really getting out these days as much as we usually do. And so for me, this is kind of how I catch up with a lot of my friends. I mean, because when I do this show, it's like I'm talking to them. I'm talking to you just like I would talk to my friends in Michigan or Idaho or Alabama or anywhere I've been. And they know that. And they're like, yeah, that's you. This is what you do. They used to always say, Griff, you'd argue with the wall. I don't have to argue with the wall. I can log on now and talk about things that are debatable because Twitter is serving it up. I mean, Twitter is just, I don't know. I don't even know what word I want to use for it. So tonight's water brought to you by the Cotton Bowl. This was a pretty big game for Michigan State to get to the college football playoff. They got hammered. Their quarterback was injured. The quarterback was injured for Michigan State, and Alabama knew that he was injured. He wasn't able to throw the ball more than 25 yards downfield. And they were done before the game even started because Alabama knew they were susceptible. I would have liked to have seen a healthy quarterback for Michigan State against Alabama. That was only like, a 10-0 game at halftime or 14-0. Michigan State was driving and threw a pick, and then Alabama converted. It was actually a pretty close game for a half. And that Alabama team was the next year after they got beat by Ohio State, and doggone if they were going to lose again. And one Kirby Smart was the defensive coordinator. And Kirby knew what was going on in that game. Speaking of Kirby Smart, I hope that you all had the opportunity earlier this week to watch the Monday night interview that I did with Ray Goff. And I moved here 2 years ago. And I guess it was a few months ago, I talked to Coach Stallings. We always talk about Coach Stallings on this show because he's my guy, right? That's my guy. That's my football coach that when I started covering college football, when Gene Stallings told me that's the way this is supposed to be done and that's the way it's supposed to be done, I listened. Why? Because Gene played for Paul Bear Bryant. He coached under Paul Bear Bryant. He also coached under the great Tom Landry in Dallas. And he was a national championship coach himself, in addition to being a fine man. So I've stayed in touch with Coach Stallings. He's 85 years old now. And I had called him. I'd heard Pat Dye was sick. This was prior to Coach Dye passing away. And so I was calling Coach Stallings to check on him. And he said he was doing okay. And he mentioned to me that Ray Goff lived in the area. He said, oh, Mike, by the way, one of my good friends is Ray Goff. And he lives over there in that Watkinsville, Athens area. You should reach out to him. And I thought, geez, I don't know Ray Goff. I never run across Ray Goff. I covered him, I think, twice in the 1990s as an Auburn beat guy, and then Alabama came over here to Athens and shut him out. But I didn't know anything about Ray Goff. But I thought, well, Coach Stallings says reach out. What's the harm? Might as well give it a try. So I called Claude Felton. I said, hey, you got an email for Coach Goff? It's a lark. I'll just send an email. And I sent an email to Coach Goff, and he called me 15 minutes later. He said, you know Coach Stallings? I said, I do. He said, he's a fine man. He means a lot to me. And I just started talking with Coach Goff. And it wasn't like, oh my gosh, Coach Goff, or hey, you're a reporter. It was two dudes talking football. And I still talk to him. He's a great guy. Ray Goff is as down to earth. I don't know how many Zaxby's he owns, right? But it doesn't matter. He's just a guy. And he loves college football. And he loves Georgia. He loves Georgia so much. And I could tell because, as we would talk about things and as I was learning some stories from him and getting some background on the beat that I cover now, he mentioned a lot that he got fired. And I said, Coach, at some point I just said, Coach, you keep mentioning that you got fired. That's not a big deal. That happens in college football. I mean, how many coaches haven't been fired? Let's be honest here. I mean, I think even Nick Saban got fired once, right? Most coaches get fired at some point in their career, but for Ray, it's different because Ray played at Georgia. He was the SEC Player of the Year in 1976, and he coached under Coach Dooley for 8 years, and he was a head coach for 7 years. And he just says, I just wish I could have done better. And you can just tell it pains him because he loves Georgia so much. Now, if Ray had, I'm thoroughly convinced of this. If Ray had coached at South Carolina or UAB or Vanderbilt and gotten fired, I think it would still bother him, but not like this, because Ray loves Georgia. And I've talked to enough people that I know that Georgia loves Ray. So I finally convinced him, hey, come on the air with me. I'm going to do this video with you. I did one with Coach Richt. We're not here to tear down former coaches. That's not the Georgia way. They don't do that here. Just because somebody doesn't work out at Georgia doesn't mean they're the worst coach in the world and let's make fun of them. They don't do that at Georgia. Okay, it's a classy place. The people understand. The coaches came, they did their best. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Jim Donnan did his best. Jim Donnan can still walk through the streets of Athens with his head held high. Mark Richt did his best. Ray Goff did his best. Vince Dooley didn't win 10 games the last 5 years, but nobody's talking bad about him because that's not how Georgia does it. And so I was really pleased to have Ray on Monday. So here was the interesting part. I reached out to Kirby and I texted Kirby and I said, because I know that like Kirby's like the most busy man ever. Like you look at Kirby and you look at his face and you can just see there's a million things going on. Every time I see him, the guy looks like there's a million thoughts on his mind. And, when you talk to him, it's like you type in the answer on a computer and Kirby spits it out like a computer because the brain is moving and the smoke's coming out of the ears. The guy is so, what's the word I'm looking for? He's just obsessed with this championship drive. Kirby Smart thinks about nothing but winning championships. It's just the way he is. So I texted him. I said, look, I know you might be busy. I know you probably don't have time for this, but I'm going to have Coach Goff on, and I thought you may be interested. And Kirby hit me back in 2 minutes and said, I'm doing it. When is it? What do I need to do? I want to talk to Coach Goff. And remember, Coach Goff recruited Kirby Smart. Without Coach Goff, think about this. How different is all this right now if Coach Goff doesn't recruit Kirby Smart? If Kirby Smart doesn't come to Georgia, what happens? Does he go to Florida? Does he end up at Southern Miss? Does he end up at Duke? Is it Duke football right now? What happened? So the fact that Ray knew Kirby's dad, Sonny, and had this great relationship, and Kirby told this incredibly good story, about being on the sideline in Thomaston. It was Thomaston and Thomaston Central or something like that. Forgive me if I don't have the names right. But, and being like 5 or 6 years old and looking up and seeing Ray Goff and saying, that was my Bear Bryant. Because Ray was such a hero. Ray was an incredible quarterback. He won the SEC title in 1976. I watched a replay. If you go to our Dog Nation forum, a lot of cool people in there that post neat stuff. And they got a video of the 1976 Florida-Georgia game. And it shows Ray just killing it, right? And then after the game, they tell Ray that he's the player of the game. And Ray said he wants to give it to somebody that died earlier in the year. It's just one of those moments and you just go, my God, how do you not love Ray Goff? How do you not love this guy? So I know things didn't work out as a coach, but in my 2 years of covering Georgia, I just got to tell you that getting to know Ray Goff has been one of the most rewarding experiences. And there's been a lot of them. I've run across Herschel Walker a few times, and Herschel is just such a wonderful guy and such a specimen. And you look at Herschel and you go, man, this guy, he looks like he could still play it. And he loves Georgia and he loves football. And you talk to Ray and, David Pollock, he brings the energy. He's bouncing off the walls. This is such a good place for football. There is just so much positivity with Georgia football right now. I'm so glad and blessed to be on this beat. And there's a lot of good beats out there. I want to be clear on that. Every stop I've been at, I've felt very fortunate to be there and run across the people and get to know the people. But at this stage in my career, I've been doing it 30 years. And it's hard I don't want to say it's hard to get excited, but there's not much that I haven't already seen. But the perspective that I have from covering all these years, I know what I'm seeing now. And I know what I'm feeling. And watching Kirby Smart interact with Ray Goff on Monday night was football magic, because Kirby was that 5 or 6 year old kid again when he was talking with Coach Goff. He was so excited. All the stress was gone. You could look at his face. He didn't even look like the same guy. He looked like boy-like, like childlike. He was smiling. He was happy, and to see Kirby have that moment with Coach Goff was just really special for me. And it made me really proud to be a part of Dog Nation and the things that our team does. Brandon Adams does that Dog Nation Daily every day and keeps the audience engaged. And so that when I come on this channel, there's all these people that are ready to watch because Brandon's done such a great job with the audience. Everybody knows Brandon like he's a family member. And Jeff does just lights out work with the recruiting show and gives you so much insight and color. And, Connor approaches things. He's got all these statistics and numbers. He's so analytical and intense. And it really just tees it up for me on a Friday night to just come on here and share stories and talk and have shows like Monday Night with Kirby Smart and Ray Goff. So if you haven't seen it, strongly recommend you watch it. Kirby was special. Ray was special. Ray is special. And my hope is that Ray Goff is around Georgia a lot more. I hope he comes on campus more. I know he's busy with his Zaxby's business. I know he's got his family. But I hope Ray understands how much the Georgia fan base loves and appreciates him. Because since that interview, everybody has talked about, man, how great it was to see Ray Goff again. And he's such a special part of Georgia football history, such a contributor. So that was fun. That was good news. That was happy stuff. Listen, college football is great. It's rewarding. I know it's been hard, folks. I know there's negativity, but stay positive, okay? Play it forward. Good karma. Think good things. And think logic. And don't be afraid to combat the negativity. Don't be afraid to stand up for what you believe in. Just because it may seem like you're going upstream or that there's a majority against you. I know how the Twitter mobs can work. I've been on the wrong side of that a few times. Sometimes justified, sometimes not. But don't be afraid to be you and keep it real out there on Twitter and say your piece, because the chances are there's a lot of people that think just like you. And maybe they're just afraid to stand up to some of the blue checkmark people, that seem to want to cancel out the season and not really give it a fair shot. So the reason I'm inside is because it's hot. I just want to tell you. I could have done it outside. I could have sweated through it. But I said, you know what? I'm going to do it inside. I'm going to be comfortable. And I think my audience is going to go with me tonight. I think they're going to be good. So this week was the first week that Kirby Smart was able to oversee his players. They have this 6-week preparation schedule, and the countable activity started Wednesday for Georgia. So what does that mean? Well, you can only go 8 hours a week still. So it's not like they're out there playing football in front of Kirby Smart and the staff. They're still doing drill work. But what this does do is it gives Kirby Smart an opportunity to see these guys in the flesh, to see these guys move around, to see, wow, who's had a good offseason, who's picked up some weight, who's picked up the good weight, who's picked up the bad weight. And you can bet that Kirby's got his x-ray eyes going around that facility checking everybody out. You can bet Todd Monken, the new offensive coordinator, is going, oh, thankfully, finally. Because all Monken's had access to is Zoom and film. And now Todd Monken can put eyes on these guys and say, all right, who do we need to get the ball to? We know we got Pickens, but who else? Who's next up? Who's next up in the skill position hierarchy? And Matt Luke, I'm really excited about Matt Luke. Think about who Matt Luke has been with. And again, I don't want to steal the thunder from Todd Monken, because he is the offensive coordinator, and he has been in the NFL, and he's been with Mike Gundy, and he's coached a couple NFL teams, and obviously he's very talented, or Kirby Smart wouldn't have hired Todd Monken. But you look at Matt Luke, and he's been a head coach, and he's kind of a David Cutcliffe. In fact, I know he's a David Cutcliffe guy. I've asked Matt Luke before what coach influenced him the most. I thought he was going to say Philip Fulmer because he was on Tennessee staff for a while, but he said David Cutcliffe. And David Cutcliffe is a bit of a guru. Now, I like 85% of David Cutcliffe. I've had 15% of David Cutcliffe I've disagreed with. I thought he ran up Peyton Manning's numbers too much in 1997 and didn't give T. Martin enough playing time. I mean, T. Martin had like 13 or 14 pass attempts going into 98. I didn't like it that David Cutcliffe left Tennessee before the national championship game for Ole Miss. I thought he should have coached in that game. So anyway, those are just minor little sports writer things I'm throwing out. But as far as being a coach, as far as being a leader, as far as running a program, David Cutcliffe has done a remarkable job. I thought he did a very good job at Ole Miss, and I thought he did it the right way there. I thought he ran a clean program, and that's kind of Matt Luke's guy. Now, Matt has also been exposed to Rich Rodriguez and Hugh Freeze. Matt Luke has been around some very, very good offenses. And so that's what excites me, is the think tank that you've got in that offensive meeting room over there. When you've got a guy like Monken that's been in the NFL, that's been involved in these air raid offenses, and then you marry it with Matt Luke, and who Matt can tell Monken, like, okay, I know you like this, but I was at Ole Miss, and I can tell you what works against SEC teams and what doesn't work against SEC teams. And I think Matt is that buffer, that sits between Kirby and Todd Monken when they're discussing offensive philosophy. And I think Matt Luke is what gives this offense a chance to be a bit more liberated. And in the news I've got, I haven't even written it, there's entirely different terminology this year. They've changed the terminology. Now, I haven't written a story on that. I will eventually. And at some point, Kirby will talk about it. But this is a whole new offense. I mean, there's still going to be some basic concepts. Look, Kirby Smart's always going to have a team that can run the ball. Any team worth their weight can run the football. You can't just be a pass-only team. Finesse teams just don't get it done. I mean, LSU, for all the passing yards last year, they were able to run the football. Alabama, for all the great receivers, still able to run the football. Georgia's going to be able to run the football. But right now, you got to figure out who that is. You know, is it Zamir? I mean, you can't just go off recruiting rankings, folks. I mean, this is where I got to tell you, I love the recruiting rankings. I think they're a good indicator coming in. But after guys have been in the program 2 and 3 years, we don't know who had what off season, right? We know Zamir White's coming back from 2 knee surgeries. We know Kenny McIntosh had very good bowl practices, and Kirby's high on him. We know that James Cook is a guy that Kirby Smart singled out for praise. Those have been the names that Kirby's talked about. Now, what will Kendall Milton do? I don't know. He's a true freshman. Dejon Edwards, another young guy. But I think those 3 guys, Zamir White, Kenny McIntosh, and James Cook, this right now is when the offensive coaches have to really separate and say, okay, how are we going to do this? How much 1 back, 2 back? And you could have 2 back, but maybe motion 1 guy out if that second guy is James Cook. You can do a lot of things with your formation this year if you're Georgia with a guy like James Cook. He can give you so many different looks. And I think Dejon Edwards is going to be kind of the guy behind him. Trey McKitty, got to find out right away. Is Trey McKitty a guy worth game planning for? I thought Isaac Nauta was a guy worth game planning for. And Isaac was always there in the clutch. Georgia's traditionally done a good job with tight ends. But is McKitty going to be that guy? How about Washington? Is he going to be healthy enough to be that guy? Darnell Washington coming in, that fantastic 5-star. So right now, Kirby's evaluating talent. And Todd Monken and Del McGee is making some decisions. And Cortez Hankton, certainly Matt Luke looking at that offensive line. Who's that right tackle going to be? And then the quarterbacks. And we did a whole cover 4 on this Thursday. And I wrote a story on it this morning. And I tried to be pretty direct and pretty honest breaking down the quarterbacks for you. And I didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I probably did. I mentioned that somebody should probably be a scout team quarterback this year. And I wasn't saying that to be mean. I was just being honest. There's 5 scholarship quarterbacks, and they can't all get first and second team reps. I think the most you can give reps to is 3. And I think now that JT Daniels is eligible, I think it's going to be JT Daniels and Jamie Newman and either Dwan Mathis or Carson Beck. And if it's not Mathis or Beck, that doesn't mean that the other one has to leave. In fact, I think they should stay because I think they're both fantastic quarterbacks. And I think we're in an age now where you go into a season as a coach knowing that you're probably going to have to play 2 quarterbacks. Look at last year. I mean, did you know last year there was only 4 teams that had the same guy start every game at quarterback? I mean, it's more often than not that you're playing 2 guys at quarterback. So I think, even though there can only be 1 on the field at a time, I think we're getting to that point now where, it's like fast pitch softball back when I covered Tennessee and Monica Abbott was just throwing every inning and blowing everybody up. And some people are going, what? You got to remember her. She's like the best softball player in the world. She's like 6'3" and threw like 76 miles an hour. And you could go with 1 pitcher. Well, now even in fast pitch, you got 2 pitchers. And I think we're getting football. It's becoming much more of a sport where you're seeing more platooning. Certainly, we've seen that change at running back. We've seen a lot of guys run in and out at receiver, right? We see defenses that are more specialized. I think Georgia had 37 guys on defense play 100 snaps or more last year. And I think we're getting to the point now where if you're going to play a 14-game season, which is what Georgia played last year, playing in the SEC title game, where you can play 2 quarterbacks. I don't know that you go in necessarily with a 2-quarterback system, but I think you've got to be ready to play 2 during the course of the season. And so that being the case, your number 3 guy is now the new number 2 guy. And the feedback I've gotten, and you can just go on Twitter and see it for yourself, these Georgia players love Dwan Mathis. I mean, these Georgia players love Dwan Mathis. And how could you not? How could you not love a guy that, endured the brain surgery in May of 2019? I mean, Dwan's fighting for his life 14 months ago. He's lost 25 pounds. He's in ICU. Guy can't even stand up. 25, just short 14 months ago and 25 pounds ago. And now here he is, 6'6", 215, throwing the ball 70 yards, back running a sub-11 second 100, and killing it in practices. And throwing the football in a way that, the people are telling me the ball's just coming off his hand in an amazing way. Now, I still think Jamie Newman's the guy because Jamie's 6'4", 230. He's thick, he's physical, he's seasoned. He's been in the game for 4 years. He's played a lot of football. And I think Jamie is more game ready. I think that JT Daniels is more groomed. I mean, we're talking about some Southern California quarterback royalty here. And I'll tell you, those SoCal quarterbacks, these kids have been getting coached up by quarterback coaches since they were 4 and 5. Their youth leagues are outstanding in California. JT Daniels is football royalty. And so I like what Jamie Newman brings. I like the athleticism. I like the RPO. I like the arm strength. I like the accuracy, the tight window throws, a projected first rounder, projected Heisman top 10 guy. Love all that about Jamie Newman. His chance to take the big stage after being at Wake Forest and playing in relative anonymity. And now he comes to Georgia where he's going to be in the spotlight. And on September 19th, if he beats Alabama, boy, does he ever land on the map, right? So I like that story. Like JT Daniels. Like that JT Daniels thought enough of Georgia, thought enough of Todd Monken, that he was willing to travel across the country to play college football at Georgia. It reminds me of Casey Clausen coming from Southern California to Tennessee. Kid could have gone anywhere. He wanted to play big-time football. And that's what JT Daniels wants. He wants to play big-time football. And he's arrived. He's arrived at the place where he can do it. Because Georgia, if you don't win the SEC East now, it's a disappointing season. If you don't beat Florida, Tennessee, and Auburn at Georgia, it's a disappointing season. We're at the beginning of what I believe will be a football dynasty. I do. I said it. I think Kirby Smart has got Georgia on the rails. I think with this $81 million football building going up now, you've got the facilities, you've got the proximity to that Atlanta airport. It'd be great if we had an Athens airport. Maybe that'll happen when Georgia, Florida starts going home and home. That'll bring a lot of money to this economy. And this infrastructure will grow so much after 2023. When that game comes back to Athens for home and home, you're going to see some real growth in Athens. You're going to see this community really take another step up. And I think that's really going to bolster what I believe will be a dynasty when you start getting at a home and home game. I was a little surprised earlier this week when I talked with Greg McGarity and he told me that they'd already decided to play this year's game in Jacksonville, even though they're talking about a reduced situation with fans and no tailgating. So why would you want to go to Jacksonville if there's no tailgating and no reduced fans when that's supposed to be a home game for you? And I saw where Texas A&M and Arkansas were supposed to play in Dallas, and A&M said, look, if there's COVID-19, we're not giving our home game to Dallas. We're playing at A&M. That's just silly to go to a neutral site when it's supposed to be a home game, when we're in an era right now where air travel and hotel travel's somewhat compromised. So I don't know that one's over with yet. There's a lot of powerful people at Georgia, and there's a certain amount of rational and logic that there's room for there. So forgive me here. So now if I was on TV or something, I'd have a break. I'd have a break here to drink my water. I feel like it's rude, and I want to apologize every time I take a drink, because it's like, is everybody else drink? Like the Dog Nation team, they want to have the Mike Griffith, Kenny McIntosh drinking game. Supposedly, every time I say Kenny McIntosh, you're supposed to drink. Because they know that I'm high on Kenny McIntosh. They know that I think Kenny McIntosh is special. And I'm standing behind it. I'm standing behind it. So if it's October and November and Kenny McIntosh is a bust, you can come after me. You go, Mike, you said Kenny McIntosh was going to be great. I'm still telling you that. But when Kenny McIntosh, as a breakout game this year, just remember who told you about Kenny McIntosh first. It was me. And I was right down there in South Florida in Pompano Beach. And I'll tell you, I'll go ahead and tell you the funny story now. So I was down there to see Kenny and do this video with him. And the first time I did the video with him, the microphone, it didn't work. We did this sit-down video, 20 minutes in his backyard, getting to know Kenny. I mean, he's really good. I can't wait for you to see him do some interviews because he's a lot of fun. And And I get done and I get back to the hotel and there's no audio. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the microphone didn't work. I'm like, call the house, I call the parents. I'm like, hey, I'm really sorry, but the microphone didn't work. And I mean, I'm feeling like what a loser. Like, shouldn't you maybe have checked that before you did the interview there, Mike? Like maybe you think? So anyway, I go back there and anyway, it worked, but I just felt so stupid, you know, that the microphone didn't work. It was fun. Let's see, what else can we talk about? So you're Kirby Smart, and what positions do you want to know about first? Well, we've talked a little bit about the quarterback position, and we've talked about the running back position. What about the receiver position? So there was some news that came out, and the Rivals guys, Anthony Dasher had it first. I wrote about it today. Arian Smith, the speedster from that Tampa area there in Lakeland, apparently a torn meniscus, could be out 3 to 6 weeks. And I'm not sure what Arian's going to do in the regular season because there's obviously more to playing football than just running fast. Arian's very fast, though. I'm told that he is incredibly fast. Like, I am told that Arian Smith is going to challenge for the fastest man on the Georgia football team. I'm told that he is outrunning go routes, that the quarterbacks are underthrowing him. I mean, that's how fast Arian Smith is. Like, this guy could be special. If he's a football player, he's going to be special. He's a track guy, but is he a football guy? If he's a football guy, he's going to be special. So far, he's had the wrist, surgery, and now the torn meniscus, and so I'm starting to wonder, how durable is this guy? Is he going to stay healthy? Is he going to get healthy? Will he be able to contribute this year? Torn meniscus, not the most serious type of thing, but you just wonder. But Arian Smith is a name to file away. This is a very special athlete on the Georgia team who could prove to be a very dangerous weapon. So file that away. Arian Smith could prove, because already the speed is legit. The speed is legit. Everybody says they're fast. Everybody puts down numbers. I'm told he's that fast. I'm told he is probably the fastest player on the Georgia football team. And somewhere Eric Stokes and Tyson Campbell are going, wait a minute, man. He ain't fast until he beats me. All right, there's your wake up, Stokes and Campbell. I'm telling you right now, the word is out that when Arian Smith is healthy again, that he can beat you and Tyson Campbell, Eric. So just know that. That's what they're saying. That's what your teammates are saying. Maybe they're not saying it to you in person, but that's the buzz. The word is that Arian Smith is that fast. The word is that Jermaine Burton is everything that we thought he was going to be. Jermaine Burton has a chance to help the Georgia passing game evolve in this sense. Yards after the catch. Yak. We haven't seen many yards after the catch since McCole Hardman left the program. I didn't think that Riley really did a great job with yards after the catch. I don't know that Jeremiah Holloman really did a ton after the catch. I think Jeremiah Holloman's an NFL player, though. Cager did a decent job, yards after the catch, but I didn't see much from a lot of other guys in yards after the catch. And this is an area where I thought LSU and Alabama were very good with their passing offenses. Their receivers got a lot of yards after the catch. If Georgia can take that step and get the yards after the catch, you got to have the players, right? You know that George Pickens is going to have 2 guys draped on him on every play because he's an amazing receiver, and he'll be on your fantasy football team in 2 or 3 years. I promise you, if George stays between the lines and stays healthy, George Pickens is going to be WR1 on at least 10 or 11 fantasy football teams, every week. But Jermaine Burton has a chance to be a guy, to be a dude, to be a weapon. And these are the things right now this week as Monken and Kirby and Luke and Hankton and McGee are looking at these skill position players trying to sort it out, saying, okay, who can do what? Now, they still got to put pads on. That's level 2 or level 3. Because this process they're in right now, it's just for the next 2 weeks that it's 8 hours a week. And then like the last 2 weeks of July or the last week of July, first week of August, they get 20 hours a week, and it's more walkthrough stuff. They can use a football. We say walkthrough, I mean they literally got to walk, but they can actually run plays and things like that in front of the coaches. That's going to be another important time. So it's starting to happen. Things are starting to evolve. We talked about it earlier. The SEC has told players that if they don't want to play, they'll still have a scholarship. It would appear that they're starting to kind of put things in line for there to be a season. Now, I don't like it when I hear Greg Sankey say, that this is like running out of ground ball, or I heard this West Virginia guy on the oversight committee said that we're going into the fourth quarter 3 touchdowns behind. Look, don't give me that, number one. And number two, how did you become a leader with that kind of talk? I get it. Everybody needs to wear face masks, okay? I get it. Everybody needs to be responsible. But that's not how you lead, man. That ain't how you lead. We got to talk about the positive things that we're going to do to make it happen, all right? That's how you lead. Jerry DiNardo, who coached at LSU and Vanderbilt and now works on the Big Ten Network, he was a championship offensive lineman for Ara Parseghian at Notre Dame. Was it 72, 73? I think Jerry played there. Jerry was also a co-offensive coordinator at Colorado when they were a co-national champion. What was that, in 90 or 91? Did Georgia Tech get a share of that? I can't remember. I remember that was the most bizarre year, though. Something stupid like that. But I went to a coaching clinic that Jerry was given one time, and he gave me some really good advice. And I ended up using it when I coached, right? Like I coached my 10 years of travel softball, and people laugh at me. I'm just the dad coach, but I was so intense, man. I loved it. But Jerry's coaching point was this. He said, when you're coaching people, tell them what they're supposed to do. Don't tell them what they're not supposed to do. Like, for example, Jerry said, if I said to everybody in the room, don't eat bananas, you might think I wasn't even thinking about bananas, but now I'm hungry for bananas. Or when you're coaching somebody, hey, don't catch the ball like that. Don't demonstrate the improper way. Demonstrate the proper way. So to me, if you're a leader, say, hey, listen, everybody wear your masks and let's get the rate down to this number and we're going to play football. Right? But instead, you know what's happening? They keep moving the goalposts, man. They keep telling you, well, at first it's this, and then it's this, and now it's this. And I'm just to the point like, is this going to be a case where unless we're 100% certain that nobody gets COVID-19, we're not going to have college football? Is that what you're trying to tell? Is that where we're getting? Oh, no, we're not saying. Okay, well then what are you saying? What are you saying then? Is it, if it's not zero, what if there's 2 guys that have per team? Because they keep moving the goalposts on what's acceptable for college football. Meanwhile, the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, they're moving forward. Okay? But I'm tired of the people that are moving the goalposts. And I'm tired of the people that are playing God with these young men's lives. Let them decide. Let them decide based on the numbers. Just like you and I do. When we go out for our jobs every day, or we go out for our morning walk or our bike ride and we think, while I'm out here walking, it's getting dark now, so I really need to think about whether it's safe enough to walk. I'll decide that. Nobody's telling me that I can't walk because it's after 7:30 p.m. Well, Mike, the percentages are a little higher getting hit by a car. Yeah, well, they're also pretty high if you've got heart disease and you're overweight. I'll be the one to decide when I walk. I'll decide that. There's no laws against that. There's percentages. How about the people that ride motorcycles? You know what the percentages are on motorcycles? Okay, so you hear me, like I boldly tell you every show, and I jumped out of airplane. I won't get on a motorcycle. I won't get on a motorcycle. I'm terrified of motorcycles. I think they're incredibly dangerous. I think the people that ride motorcycles have a death wish. Okay? But it's their decision. It's their decision. It's risk reward. They get to decide what chance they take. COVID-19, knee injury, neck injury, paralysis, heat stroke, concussion, there's risks in football every year, every day, every day. I mean, just think about how ridiculous this is. I want you to think about this. With all that we've gone through with the concussion protocol and all the research that's been done with CTE and lawsuits in the NFL, and we're still playing football. But COVID-19, there's a 1 in 215,000 chance, a 1 in 215,000 death rate for 18 to 24, and we're saying we're going to shut it down. But every year, we've got concussions, multiple concussions, we've got paralysis, we've got knee injuries. I mean, we've had viruses before. Yes, this is a serious virus. Yes, this is another risk. But we've been operating with risks for hundreds of years. Newsflash, Lewis and Clark lost people on the travels across the country. People died as they were settling, but they kept moving forward. And listen, I'm not saying that we're settling the nation with college football, and I'm not comparing it to war, and I'm not trying to lessen the impact and the danger of this. It strikes me that I could have COVID-19. I could be on a ventilator in 2 weeks. But that doesn't change my opinion that people should be able to decide for themselves their risk factor. And if it's not illegal to be in a group of over 50 people, then I don't think anybody should take this opportunity away from these college players. Any more than they should take it away from the guy that's trying to get his science degree because he wants to cure cancer. And he has 1 more year of college left, and he's got to be in the lab, and he's got to be around other students. Are you going to tell him he can't go to class? Are you going to tell the concert pianist that they can't perform with the symphony orchestra this year? Can't they decide? Well, they're going to have to wear masks. Okay, well, they're still going to be in a room. I mean, we're living life, folks. And my point is with or without college football, there's going to be COVID-19. And my second point is, because of the testing, because of the medical treatment, because of the protocol in place, these college football players are safer on campus in a football program than they are not on campus and not in a football program in the 18 to 24-year-old age group. They're not exposed to as many people from different age groups that are more likely to have it. They're in an environment where everybody is tested regularly, and they have doctors there to give them 24/7 treatment. And if they're not playing football, they don't have all that. The regular student doesn't have that. The safest guy on the Georgia campus is the guy that's in the Georgia sports programs right now. That's the safest place they can be. And so when all the people on Twitter tell you how dangerous it is, and if we lose one person because they played football, then you need to say, you know what? What if we lose one person because they didn't play football? What if we lose 100 kids that would have been tested inside their program, but because they're not inside their program, they don't get tested? Are you willing to be responsible for that? You know, because here's the thing. We can't really trace it. We don't really know. Well, you can't really say that if they don't play football that they're going to get COVID-19. Yeah, and you can't say that if they do, they're going to play COVID-19. So let's stop playing the game. Let's stop playing politics, man. Let's get past it. So when those people preach, you feel the power to preach back. You've got the information. I've given you the argument. You preach back. And you tell them when they say, what if a kid gets COVID-19 playing football? You say, what if a kid gets COVID-19 not playing football? And they say, well, we're not sure what close contact is from playing football. You need to say, are you going to be the one to give these kids 24/7 medical treatment and medical care if they don't play football? Are you signing up for that? Because you're taking that away from them if you cancel football season. You want to take that away from them? I don't. Tired of the politics. So I've reached the point of the show where I look at your comments. William Clayton says I'm a cyborg. Hey man, look, no, this is just what I do. This is what I love. Football players love to play football. Mike likes to talk about football. Mike likes to observe and learn about football. I've been fortunate, really fortunate, to cover a lot of great coaches. And I learned from them. You know, I'm not one of these guys, one of these writers that thinks I'm smarter than the coach. I every now and then, has Kirby learned his lesson from two? Just stop it. Just stop it. Gosh. Kirby played the wrong guy at quarterback. Oh, yeah, Kirby, because he's just such a dummy. I mean, please, just stop with that bull. I mean, I get so ticked when Fields would have been better. How do you know? Were you at practice? Don't you think the whole locker room saw every practice? Don't you think there'd have been an outright revolt? I am so tired of people telling me, look, Justin Fields was a true freshman. He was just learning the offense, for God's sakes. Jake had played an entire year and led his team to a national title. And oh, by the way, the plan worked pretty good. You had a point guard. You didn't need a shooting guard. So don't tell me who would have been better. Don't pretend you know more than Kirby Smart and Jim Chaney, okay? Just stop. Just stop. Everybody wants to Monday morning quarterback and say, well, now if they'd have done this, they'd have won. Hindsight's 20/20. I'll tell you that, number one. But number two, I'm going to tell you Kirby Smart can coach. I'm going to tell you Kirby Smart can evaluate talent. And if you don't believe me, just look at Nick Saban's record at Alabama. Oh, wait a minute. What are you talking about? Yeah, okay. So Kirby Smart was the defensive coordinator for Nick Saban at Alabama 8 years. And in those 8 years, Alabama won 4 national titles. Nick Saban's had 5 seasons at Alabama without Kirby Smart as his defensive coordinator. You know how many national titles he's won? 1. And it took second in 26. Don't tell me Kirby Smart can't coach. Don't second guess your coach, Georgia fans. If Ohio State fans want to tell you how great, let them. If Florida fans want to gig you, or Tennessee fans, but don't second guess your own coach, folks. Don't fall for that trap. That's a trap. Don't do that. You're smarter than that. Give your coaches credit. Cheer for your coaches. Support your coaches. They want to win more than anybody. They know what they're doing, okay? They see things that you and I don't. So I'm careful to second guess coaches. Now, that's not to say I don't second guess Kirby, because I still don't know why he had a guy out there with a shoulder brace on trying to catch a punt against Notre Dame, or trying to catch a ball against, and I got to say it. I love Tyler Simmons. I love this kid. I do know why Kirby had him out there, because Tyler Simmons worked his butt off. Because Tyler Simmons played special teams, he blocked, he worked so hard for his senior year. He was such a big part of the offense. It was going to be his breakout year. And when he got slammed by that crappy, Arkansas State, or I can't remember, it was Arkansas State or Murray State, somebody body slammed him on the sideline. Can't believe it wasn't a personal foul. And his shoulder went out, and he had been through this the year before he played with a shoulder brace. I felt so bad for Tyler Simmons. But Kirby loved this guy, and Tyler practiced so well, they trusted him in the game, and he's out there with a shoulder brace fielding punts against Notre Dame, and I'm just going, Kirby, come on. I know you love this guy, but he's got a shoulder brace on, coach. You know, Hankton, I know you like this guy and he's earned your trust, but he's got a shoulder brace on. So in overtime, and you're about to beat South Carolina, and Jake throws the ball, and it hits him in the hands, and it goes off of Simmons' hands, and it's intercepted, and everybody goes, oh, Jake Fromm threw another interception. It hit the receiver in the hands. Another receiver ran the wrong route earlier in the game. There was some bad luck in the game, okay? People say, oh, well, that just goes to show you they needed more offense. They had almost 500 yards of offense against South Carolina. There was plenty of offense. There was just turnovers. And I've said it before. If you turn the ball over 4 times and miss 2 field goals, there ain't many SEC teams you're going to beat. I don't care who they are. So, yeah, I see Sanchel says, yeah, Kirby's still learning. Dude, we're all still learning. Every coach is still learning. Nick Saban is still learning. So Kirby Smart is still learning. Yes, he is. Absolutely. Dan Lanning's still. I don't know a coach that's not still learning. If you're not still learning, you better hang it up. You're done. You're finished. Because the game changes. The rules change. The athletes change. The schemes change. You know, Kirby's changing. Of course he's learning. That doesn't change the fact that a guy that's played an entire season and played in a championship game is going to have more experience than any incoming freshman. Yes, Justin Fields is an incredible talent. There's no reason to feel bad about that. Justin made the right decision. He went somewhere that they played an offense that was better suited to him. He looks to the sideline, he gets the play, and he runs it. And he runs a spread in an Ohio State offense that's loaded with weapons. They've got the talent advantage over everybody they line up against till they get to the playoff, and then they lose. That's what happens. I mean, that's just what happens. I covered the Big Ten. Yes, Charles, I am fielding questions. What do you want to know? What do you want to know, Charles? You wanted to know if I'm fielding questions. Evolving. There you go, Brian. Water's in here. I went swimming. Don't tell me, no, Antoine, Fields got a fair shot. They played both of those quarterbacks all fall in the scrimmages. They both had first team reps, and Kirby saw who moved the team and who didn't. Now, once the season started, they weren't going to have a competition in season, okay? Justin was going to get reps in season, and the goal was for him to be able to learn to go through his progressions. You got to have an internal clock. And when you're a special athlete like Justin, you know, when the read's not there, you can run and get it. Justin's a competitor, okay? But he had a tendency to tuck and run early. And that's not good, because when he tuck and run early, guess what happens? He gets hit. And Georgia didn't need Justin Fields injured. And they got upset that he was tucking and running and not just throwing the ball away or going through the progressions. That's what happened that year. Justin was not able, and to be fair, very few people got through the progressions like Jake. That's something that Jake does really well. That's why Jake's in the NFL. Now, he's not a first or a second or a third rounder because he's only 6 feet tall and doesn't have great foot speed and doesn't have great velocity. But he got drafted because Jake Fromm can read a defense and can get through his progressions. That's what Jake can do. And in that particular offense, with those skill positions, with J.J. Holloman, with McCole Hardman, with Riley Ridley, Swift, and Holyfield, you wanted a point guard quarterback like Jake. So while Jake isn't the playmaker like Justin, okay, Justin can make things happen with his feet. May not be quite as good as a true freshman at getting through his reads, but he can make things happen with his feet and buy time, right? But in that particular offense, you had enough weapons out there that you needed a distributor. It's like having if you've got a team that's filled with shooters, it's great to have a point guard that can pass the ball because he's just got to get the ball to shooters and they score. But if you don't have any shooters or in football playmakers, then now all of a sudden you need a shooting guard or you need a combo guard there, a point guard. Like, for example, this year, part of the reason why Jamie Newman is going to be the guy coming out of the gate, provided that he works hard, because listen, he can't slack off. Jamie Newman can't walk in here and think he's got the job. He's got to work hard to keep the job. I'm going to believe that Jamie Newman will work hard and keep the job, is because you have so much newness. Now, I think there's a lot of talent in that receiving core. We know what George Pickens can do. I still believe Matt Landers will turn it around. I've got hope for Tommy Bush and Kearis Jackson. Like what I've heard about the freshman from Terrence Edwards, Jermaine Burton yards after the catch, Justin Robinson, a red zone guy. Haven't heard much on Marcus Roseme yet. Got to hope Arian Smith gets healthy. Ladd McConkey, probably a red shirt. But Trey McKitty in the offense. Okay, so there's talent, but there's a lot of newness. And there's a new offensive coordinator, and there's a rebuilt offensive line. And there's a lot of newness at receiver. So what you've seen with Jake gave you the opportunity to use the whole playbook because he was like a computer back there. You know, he was a 3-year starter, and he knew all the checks and plays. And like the Baylor guys told me, what made Jake Fromm so tough was he could audible on the field. Like most quarterbacks, Justin included, they have to look to the sideline to change the play, right? Not Jake. And so if you're the defense, you don't have time to look to the sideline. You know, typically you see the two teams come up to the line of scrimmage, right? And then a lot of times you'll see the quarterback look to the sideline and he'll call a play, and then the defense will look to the sideline and they'll call a play. Okay, well, because Jake, the computer, Jake just goes. He can just go, or he can audible before the defense can change a play. That's what Jake gave you, all right? But Jake's gone, and there's a lot of newness, and you're not going to have that complexity to your offense. So early on in the season, the emphasis is going to be on execution. What can you execute? You're not going to have an A to Z playbook, all right? So you got to figure out what you do well and run those plays you do well, and then run the complement play, right? You line up this way, and every time you line up this play, it's power 7, power 7, power 7, until one time the quarterback keeps it in bootlegs and it's not, right? So you set up your base plays that you know will work, and then your complementary plays. Georgia also has their answer plays where they'll scout the defense and they'll say, when we line up like this, or when teams line up like this, they line up like that, and therefore we know we have this matchup, and this is going to be an answer play for us. Like, for example, Eli Wolf on 3rd and 7 against Florida last year. That was an answer play. Georgia knew going into that game that if they lined up in a certain formation, the Florida defense would line up a certain way, and that play would be there for Jake and Eli Wolf in 3rd and 7. So those are some of the basic components of the offense, but getting back to why it's Jamie Newman, you're going to need a quarterback playmaker because you're not going to be able to distribute the ball as effectively with a first-year quarterback and a new offensive coordinator as what we saw Jake Fromm do against Baylor or what we saw Jake Fromm do against Florida when receivers were running the right routes and in the right places. So Jamie is that guy. because Jamie can beat you with his arm. He's got a very good deep ball rating, number 2 to only Joe Burrow. He was also number 2 only to Joe Burrow on tight window throw metrics. He can obviously run the football. I think he had 182 rushes. Only 129 of those were called. Sometimes when you see a quarterback run, it's supposed to be a pass, and the quarterback decides to keep it. But Jamie can put the run. He can put the R in the RPO. Jake couldn't do that because there wasn't a backup. They were going to do everything they had to do to protect Jake Fromm. Because if Jake Fromm got injured, last season was over. Period. It was. And so you couldn't really run him. But now that you've got some quality depth, you're going to see Jamie run a little bit. Not as much as he did at Wake, but you're still going to see some RPO principles in the Georgia offense. He's going to be the guy through the month of September, in my opinion, bar an injury. And he could hold the job, because if Jamie keeps winning, there's no reason, right? Just like Jake kept winning, there was no reason to make a move in 2018. LSU game, people, you should have put Fields in against LSU. Why? You leave the veteran in. You don't put some freshman in on the road who hasn't had success against an SEC team. The revisionist history. I'm done and I'm over with it. So I just kind of wanted to get that out because I saw some revisionist history this week, and sports revisionist history is one of the things that upsets me because it's not fair to the coaches and it's not fair to the players. Everybody recreates history based on how good they are now. How about this one? Can you believe Tom Brady didn't start at Michigan until his senior year? Can you believe that? Yeah, I can believe that because in college, Tom Brady wasn't the Tom Brady that he is now. Yeah, Tom Brady wasn't a 4-year starter at Michigan. Did you know that? Huh? Did you know Peyton Manning didn't start as a freshman? Did you know that Todd, help me out, the baseball player from Tennessee, Todd Helton. Did you know Todd Helton was ahead of Peyton Manning on the quarterback depth chart at Tennessee? How bad of a coach is David Cutcliffe? Oh, wait a minute. You mean Peyton was only a freshman? Oh, yeah. See, it makes a difference, doesn't it? I think David Cutcliffe's a pretty good quarterback coach. I think Eli Manning and Peyton Manning would tell you that too, right? So would the guy that plays for the Giants. What's that quarterback's name? So come on, use some common sense. And Antoine, you're wrong. You're wrong. You know why Saban wouldn't have played Justin Fields in that game? For the same reason that he didn't play Tua Tagovailoa against Auburn when they lost to Auburn in 2017. Did you know that? That's right. Alabama was down double digits to Auburn with Jalen Hurts at quarterback, and Nick Saban didn't put Tua in. Do you know why? Because he's a freshman. Because he was a freshman. That's why. And he believed in Jalen Hurts. The same reason you keep Jake Fromm in. Now, the next week, after the bye week, Georgia played Florida, and we all wondered, right? Or was it Kentucky? Who did they come back with after that bye week against LSU? Wasn't it Florida? And Jake played lights out. So that's the way it was. So there we go. Any other questions here? Listen, let me tell you, LSU that day, I knew that it was going to be a bad day from the start. There were 2 things early on that told me it was going to be a bad day. Did you know that the morning of the game that the power went out in Georgia's hotel, their team hotel, and their morning routine was disrupted? Now, if you believe in conspiracy theories, there was an LSU fan that flipped the switch and said, let's turn the lights out on Georgia and really get their day started bad. You know what? I'm saying 50-50. I'm saying 50-50. That's right. Those things do happen. Is it a coincidence? Is it a coincidence that the power just happened to go out at the Georgia hotel the morning of the game and disrupt their game routine? Do you believe in coincidences? Maybe it was a coincidence. I don't think it was a coincidence. And then the opening drive, the fake field goal. I didn't like it. But I'll say this, Kirby knows his team better than us. And Kirby felt like he needed that play, and they had that play set up, and they practiced it, and knew that it would work, and then it didn't. So I didn't like that play. That was momentum. And then Burrow, that was kind of Joe Burrow's coming out party. I mean, nobody was talking about Joe Burrow, the year before last, but he converted like 4 fourth downs. Georgia could not stop them in short yardage. Remember, we did know going into the year that the Georgia defensive line was suspect. We did know that they were going to miss Roquan Smith at linebacker. And Georgia's defensive front got exposed against LSU in that game. LSU beat them running the ball. And then on the flip side, Dave Aranda, and let's give Dave Aranda some credit. He's now the head coach at Baylor. This guy's a guru. I mean, he's a hell of a coach. And he was doing some things with his fronts that Jim Chaney didn't have the answer for. Jim Chaney didn't have the answer. Georgia couldn't execute. Georgia couldn't run the ball. LSU won that game in the trenches that day. The team that wins the line of scrimmage usually wins the game. And Joe Burrow had a special performance. He outperformed Jake Fromm that day. The receivers for Georgia didn't get open. The running backs I didn't think played real well. And LSU played outstanding and converted 4 fourth downs. And give LSU credit. They had to have that win. Remember, they just lost, to Florida. I mean, that was a big win. I mean, the drums were starting to beat on Ed Orgeron again. So, Sanchi, I wouldn't say that they got outcoached by LSU last year. I think LSU was just a better team. I mean, look, Georgia's missing DeAndre Swift, Lawrence Cager, Dominic Blaylock, and Kearis Jackson at the end of the first quarter. Those 4 guys are missing. What if you turn the tables? What if LSU's missing Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Jamar Chase and Shepard? What if they're missing their best? What if LSU's missing 4 of their best skilled players and Georgia has their 4 best? I mean, players make a difference. So, this whole getting out coached and this coach is dumb. Listen, I do believe that there are subtle differences, but I'm telling you, the staff that Kirby has in place, these guys don't get out coached very often. Are there play calls they wish they could have back? Sure. Are there times when maybe they don't have the right personnel out there? Maybe. But again, they know more than we do. They know who's healthy, who's not healthy, who's practiced well, who's sick, who's had the flu, right? Just think about how different this year could be. I mean, with the guidelines they put out earlier this week, and we'll talk about that, the guidelines being the NCAA guidelines are that if a guy tests positive for COVID-19, he's automatically out 10 days. And if someone's had direct contact with him, they're out 14 days. So they're doing a really aggressive and good job of policing this within the teams. So you got a bunch of people that are tested. There's a lot of other components to this, and I'm not going to get into fans in the stands tonight because to me that's secondary. That's not what the issue is. To me, it's about the players. Not about the fans in the stands, not about the politics, not about the presidents, not about the commissioners, not about the media people and letting it get personal. It's about what's best for those 18 to 24-year-old players. And we've talked about a lot of those issues tonight, and I just want to say this. I know that when we share opinions on here, we're not always going to agree. And different people are going to see things differently. And I'm going to argue my point of view, and I'm going to welcome you to argue yours. And if you think I'm wrong, you can say, Mike, you're wrong. And if I think you're wrong, I'll say you're wrong. And at the end of the night, it's all cool. We're just talking football. And don't feel intimidated on your Twitter timeline. Don't feel intimidated. Hey, I just encourage you to be you. I encourage you to use your common sense every day. Take measured risks. Care for your family members. Know the numbers. Know the chances that you're taking. Make conscientious decisions. All it takes is one slip up. But follow the numbers. Take care of yourself. What you can control? I heard a little bit of a Lou Holtz speech this week. And I like Lou Holtz. I miss Lou Holtz on television. I thought Lou Holtz I think he is a gifted speaker. And he was telling how he would say to his kids, you can't control if you're going to be a first-team All-American. You can't control if you're going to be a starter. But what you can control is being your best. You can control that. That's what I'm trying to do. I feel guilty that I had some nacho chips today. I feel kind of guilty. I know those aren't good for me. All right? They're not. I'm not going to lose weight and get healthy eating nacho chips, but I had a moment of weakness today. All right? But I ate pretty well though. I had chicken and some oatmeal and some plain yogurt and some berries, and I went and I swam for about a half hour. Pools like bath water. I'm trying to exercise. I'm trying to be my best. And I would challenge you to try and be your best. Because really, all we can do is make ourselves as healthy as possible so that if we have this misfortune of getting exposed to COVID or any other virus, that we're giving our bodies our best chance, right? You take your vitamins and you exercise. And I know I always preach like that, but I want to share that because conscientiously, you got to think about it. You got to being healthy is like a conscientious choice. It doesn't just happen. What just happens is you just happen to eat cookies or you just happen to drink a soda. You actually have to plan to try to be healthy. So I see someone asking how is Scott Cochran fitting in. Richard, I would love to know the answer to that question. I don't know, but that's a great question. I'm so glad you asked that because we're 3 days in and now Cochran has been exposed to those players in person. So I would love to know the answer to that. I'm going to pursue that. I'm going to try and find that out. That's why I love you guys. You come up with these great questions. I don't think of everything, but it's good to see what some of the questions are that you have. So I would encourage you, follow me on Twitter, at Mike Griffith 32. I try to be positive. I try to tweet out things that are relevant, at Mike Griffith 32. Share this with your friends or other Georgia fans that may need a pick-me-up or may want some information or may want to hear us talk about quarterbacks or running backs or wide receivers. And listen, have a great weekend. Have a great weekend. Make the most of these days. It's not perfect, but it's what we've got. And so maximize it. And thanks for joining me. I love doing the show, and I love talking to all of you. So have a great weekend, and I'll see you Monday night. Thanks for joining Friday Night Mike.